Trump peacefully arrested and released in porn star hush payment case. America is using Israeli spy software, which it banned. Squeezed by high costs, evictions in the U.S. are surging. Human Rights Watch criticizes Texas immigration bills. More than 50 Shia Muslim scholars denied entry to the U.S. Finland joins NATO in historic realignment. Adil Najam named as new president of WWF International. NASA reveals historic crew for 2024 Artemis moon voyage. From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. America made history today. Former U.S. President Donald Trump was taken into police custody on Tuesday. He surrendered himself at the district attorney's office in Lower Manhattan, New York. Trump remained under arrest until he was taken to the court, where he was charged with 34 felony counts. He pled not guilty. Charges revolve around the investigation of $130,000 paid to porn actress Stormy Daniels just days before Trump's 2016 election win. The former president was neither photographed nor handcuffed. His judge turned down requests from news organizations to have TV cameras in his courtroom. There were some pro-Trump and anti-Trump demonstrators who were all peaceful. There are other criminal investigations of Trump. One of the two is a federal investigation into Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election, including his role in the January 6, 2021 Capitol attack. The second involves those same efforts, but only in Georgia. Trump, however, is not the first president to be arrested. The New York Times reports that 150 years ago, President Ulysses Grant was arrested for speeding in Washington, driving a two-horse carriage. The United States government is using Israeli spy software under a secret contract, the New York Times has revealed. The contract violates the Biden administration's public policy banning the software and still appears to be active, the Times reported. It specifically allows the government to test, evaluate, and even deploy the spyware against targets of its choice in Mexico. Last week, President Biden signed an executive order to clamp down on government use of commercial spyware. It prohibits federal departments and agencies from using hacking tools that might be abused by foreign governments, could target Americans overseas, or could pose security risks if installed on U.S. government networks. A senior administration official denied knowledge of the contract permitting the spyware and said any use of this product would be highly concerning. A spokesman for the White House and the Office of the Director of National Intelligence declined to make any comment. The use of spyware against journalists and opposition figures has sparked a political scandal in India and other countries. Evictions in the United States are surging post-pandemic. According to Peter Hepburn, Associate Director of Eviction Lab at Princeton University, the U.S. sees 3.6 million eviction cases filed in a typical year. That number slowed to a trickle during the COVID-19 pandemic. But now, with COVID-era legal protections and assistance lifted, it is surging again. Eviction Lab's figures show numbers are now close to where they were before the pandemic. In the 10 states and 34 cities that the group tracks, the number of such cases filed rose from around 6,600 in April 2020 during the pandemic to more than 96,000 in January. Over a third of the U.S. population rent their homes. Black renters face greater risk of eviction. Women who are in the low-income bracket, especially women of color, domestic violence victims, and renters with children face the greatest risk, according to Eviction Lab. Human Rights Watch last week criticized two immigration enforcement bills before the Texas state legislature that would expand the state's ability to enforce immigration laws. Immigration policies and enforcement are usually left to the federal government. Human Rights Watch said the bills would authorize Texas to deputize state-sponsored vigilantes and are dangerous and extreme due to a lack of proposed oversight. Texas State Representative Matt Schaefer introduced HB 20, known as the Border Protection Unit Act, in March. It would create a state-level immigration law enforcement unit whose chief would be authorized to employ U.S. citizens to serve in the unit. The bill also shields officers and employees of the unit from civil and criminal liability for actions authorized by it. Another bill, HB 7, would create a border protection court program that would hear cases regarding violations of Chapter 51 of the Texas Juvenile Justice Code, the Texas Penal Code, and related border issues. President Joe Biden has appointed civil rights attorney Mazen Basrawi as liaison to the American Muslim community. During his presidential campaign, Biden pledged to the American Muslim community that he would fill the position of Muslim American liaison in the White House Office of Public Engagement. That post had been removed by the administration of ex-President Donald Trump. Basrawi previously served as a trial attorney at the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. He successfully defended the right of the Islamic Center of Murfreesboro in Tennessee to open its mosque in the case of U.S. versus Rutherford County, Tennessee. Along with his new role, Basrawi will continue serving in his current position of Director of Partnerships and Global Engagement at the National Security Council. Basrawi, who is visually impaired, was appointed by Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe to the Virginia Board for the Blind and Vision Impaired. He has served as board chairman since June 2020. Adil Najam, a Muslim Pakistani-American professor, is the next president of the World Wildlife Fund. The organization is one of the largest and most respected environment and conservation organizations in the world. It has more than 6 million members working in over 100 countries on about 1,200 conservation projects worldwide. The group's international secretariat in Switzerland said Najam will begin his new role as president on July 1st. Najam is Dean Emeritus of Boston University's Pardee School of Global Studies, where he will continue teaching and research. He has served as Vice Chancellor of the Lahore University of Management Sciences in Lahore, Pakistan. His research focuses on issues of development and global public policy, especially those related to worldwide climate change, South Asia, and Muslim countries. More than 50 Shia Muslim scholars denied entry to the U.S. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Muhammad Ali Naqvi, chair of the American Muslim Bar Association, said his organization documented denials or revocations of more than 50 Shia scholars in the past decade. Some were denied entry as they were about to board a U.S.-bound flight. Others were denied after arriving in the country and forced to turn back despite having a valid visa. Others still remain in the limbo of administrative processing. Abid Ayub is National Executive Director at the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee. He said not being able to have your religious events because of immigration enforcement is very problematic. Many of these scholars are from countries like the UK, Canada, and Australia. The administration of former President Barack Obama passed the Visa Waiver Program Improvement and Terrorist Travel Prevention Act of 2015. That disqualified visa waiver for applicants from 40 countries if they made any trips to Iraq, Syria, Iran, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, or Yemen on government assignment or military order. Nearly all Shia scholars have visited or regularly visit these countries. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders renewed his call to break up agricultural monopolies after the nation's largest egg producer reported its quarterly profits soared more than 700%. Cal-Maine Foods, which controls about 20% of the U.S. egg market, announced last week its quarterly revenue ending February 25th rose 109% to more than $997 million. Profit for the same period skyrocketed 718% to over $323 million. Cal-Maine President and CEO Sherman Miller attributed the company's profits to the ongoing epidemic of highly pathogenic avian influenza, which has significantly reduced the nation's egg-laying capacity. More than 43 million egg-laying hens were lost to the disease or to depopulation since the outbreak in February 2022. Sanders, who took on agricultural monopolies while campaigning for president in 2016 and 2020, questioned Cal-Maine's narrative. He tweeted, "We must break up big ag and enact a windfall profits tax." On Monday, NASA and the Canadian Space Agency announced the 4 astronauts who will venture around the moon on Artemis 2. It's the first crewed mission on NASA's path to establish a long-term presence on the moon for science and exploration through Artemis. The crew comprises NASA astronauts Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, and Christina Hammock, coach, and CSA astronaut Jeremy Hansen. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said, "Together we are ushering in a new era of exploration for a new generation of star sailors and dreamers, the Artemis generation." The flight, set to build upon the successful uncrewed Artemis 1 mission completed in December, will set the stage for the first woman and first person of color on the moon. The roughly 10-day Artemis 2 flight test will launch on the agency's powerful Space Launch System rocket. Finland's blue and white Nordic Cross flag was hoisted outside NATO headquarters Tuesday as it became the 31st member of the alliance. This is the first step of a historic realignment of Europe's defenses sparked by Russia's war on Ukraine. Finland's strategic shift ended decades of its military non-alignment. Moscow was furious at the move, which takes its frontier with NATO member states to over 1,500 miles, calling it an assault on Russia's security and national interests. Finland's admission has doubled the length of the U.S.-led alliance's land border with Russia and drawn an angry warning of countermeasures from the Kremlin. U.S. President Joe Biden said the alliance was strengthened by its newest member and promised to defend every inch of NATO territory. Finland's membership became possible because Turkey agreed to let it join NATO. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken marked the occasion with an appeal to Hungary and Turkey to drop their objections to Sweden following suit. Turkey has accused Sweden of being a haven for terrorists. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has called on African leaders to reject the promotion of homosexuality. He has hinted that he will sign into law an anti-LGBTQ+ bill, which was passed by Parliament last month. The proposed legislation imposes the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality and life imprisonment for recruitment, promotion, and funding of same-sex activities. Speaking on Sunday, the president said homosexuality was a big threat and danger to the procreation of the human race. He said Africa should provide the lead to save the world from this degeneration and decadence, which is really very dangerous for humanity. Museveni's comments followed a two-day inter-parliamentary conference in the central Ugandan city of Entebbe on family values and sovereignty. It was attended by MPs and delegates from 22 African countries, including Zambia, Kenya, and Sierra Leone. 4 Pakistani soldiers were killed on Friday when terrorists attacked their patrol from across the border in Iran, the military said. It is seeking action against those involved in the assault, which took place in Pakistan's southwestern province, Balochistan. So far, no group has claimed responsibility for the attack. This was the second incident in 3 months. Pakistan's foreign ministry urged Iran not to allow terrorists to use its soil to launch attacks. The outlawed Balochistan Liberation Army has been carrying out attacks on security forces in the province. Mineral-rich Balochistan is Pakistan's largest and poorest province. It is a key route for the $64 billion China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, part of Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. Before we end today's news, I'd like to make a special request. It takes our team a combined 55 hours of work daily to produce this news for you. It is news with a unique perspective, and you will find it only here. Sound Vision is a not-for-profit organization which produces it. And just like PBS and NPR, it depends on your donations. Please visit MuslimNetwork.tv to donate now, or click the link below to donate. Thank you. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit MuslimNetwork.tv. Salam and good night.